Welcome everyone. Today we're going to discuss about investment and enterprise. We have our famous industrial specialist, Madam Durgadas. We have Mr. Raja and we have Mr. Saleh. So I want to start from Madam Durgadas, how you want to analyze investment and enterprise. And you know already World Talent Economy Forum, we are working on this public-private partnership. Perhaps it's one of the largest Asia Pacific open dialogue. And we are developing some very interesting strategy for Malaysia. Beside that, we are welcoming all of the developed nations and developing nations. They can like set up their corporation. They can develop some strategic point of views, and they can invest in Malaysia. So, what's your views? How we can move to this investment and enterprise analysis, and what type of strategy developing nations should take?
I think, thank you, Sharif, for having me on the show. As always, you bring up interesting topics that make me think and then apply it possibly in my own life and business. And I think that's the value of what you bring on the show. It's also nice to meet others who bring their perspective to help us find solutions. And nice to see Mr. Iyer here because I think at the last meeting that we had as well, he kind of opened my eyes to so many things that kind of went over my head to begin with. But then I started reading a little bit more and I tried to understand better, the economics of policy and things like that, which is not a perspective we come from as entrepreneurs because we see things at a very basic level. There's my product, my solution, that's my customer, there's the price, and how do I get to market, right? So we keep it very simple. But to understand it at a higher level of policy, obviously, is very valuable. I think for developing countries, having lived and worked in California and seen a Western approach to not only developing technology, but also the perspective that it gains from others. In India, unfortunately, and I would say in other developing countries, the customer view and perspective of a product coming from a developing country than from a developed country is very, very different in the case of pricing as well as in terms of quality. Now, there can be some truth in both, right? But there's also sometimes not so much truth. For example, just saying we came from a developing country, it should be cheap. I don't think that's fair. I think when developed countries, when customers make that differentiation, I think that is damaging to innovation from developing countries. Having said that, in terms of quality, I think we can do a lot better to reach the Western standards. And if we get there, obviously, we will also be able to command a better price. And I think that's a primary issue that we face. But it's an effort that is required from our side to improve. And I think even in countries in Asia itself, when you look at Taiwan or Korea or Japan, they have obviously reached a level of manufacturing and development that demands a value for quality. Maybe not China, but the others for sure. But India still, I think we need to get there. I would say Malaysia and other Asian countries also need to consider that 80% is not 100. 100 is 100. And we usually stop short of creating a product that is 100% from all aspects, whether it's design, whether it's efficiency, whether it's value to customer, whether it is quality, whether it has the deliverables are from the promises are all met. So I think those are areas we should consider, and I think that is something I would talk about in terms of enterprise from and investment from a developing country. The second point I'll just bring up very briefly, and I can bring it up again later in depth, is from an investment point of view. To get that and garner that investment, obviously we need to make these changes, and I think that's an important part to consider. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Thank you for your excellent analysis, Mr. Radha. Especially investment, when we're discussing about investment, even I saw even example, like in the developing nations, they have to take some sort of good strategy for attracting corporations or for attracting financial institutions. So what are the key strategy they can take? Even though I believe personally that South Asia, yes, India doing well in terms of attracting investors, Still, other countries, I think they need to improve different kind of strategy, especially their small medium enterprise. What is your advice? Can you unmute, please, Mr. Raja?
Is it okay?
Yes.
Is it okay?
Yes.
Good, good, good. Investment and enterprise for developing world. We talk of a nation as a whole. There's sort of a GDP, and the investments are looked at the nation. While I was looking at it and taking certain points this evening, what is very important in my opinion is that number one is particularly for the developing world is the ethical responsibility for the government officers, and particularly from the top level, be cabinet and ministry level. It's a very, very important aspect of how they look at the society. Because in a country like India, we are talking about 1,300 million, about 1.35 billion people. And when certain things have been taken for granted in the past, which had been corrected, that is the most important thing, and that is ultimate beneficiary or the society as a whole. Now, to do that, it requires that particularly UNCAC, United Nations Conventions Against Corruption, the corruption in different level had to be stopped. And to a great extent, you have to facilitate that. This is what Modi government had done, is that stimulus packages, amazing, particularly after the COVID March 2020, 900 million people have been given the free food ration. At November, it was restarted after April 21 because of the second wave. And responsibility in terms of seeing more than 900 million people have been vaccinated. It's an amazing story. That was because certain steps which had been taken to the by the government in the last about from 2014, and that was possible by direct to the the people. That is the whatever the payment that is being done, whether you give as a subsidy, the farmers area, and it's all the direct benefit transfers. And previously, the middlemen used to come in between, whether you give the loan, whether you give the subsidies, all of them were going to their political bigwigs. And they, in turn, I've seen in my own eyes about nearly 40 or 50 farmers sitting there signing a paper where the Mirage, there is a man in charge of the land, he would collect all the money in their name. It had happened in the past. And this is what is very important. Number one is that ethical responsibility of the government and stopping the corruption. Number three, the facilitate the direct benefit transfer. When I was doing that, and when you see this stimulus package, Obama also gave a stimulus package. I'm an accountant. I'm not an economist. What is happening in, say, for example, Obama's stimulus package? It was more than about $750 billion had been given as a stimulus package. Same case in India, more than about $250 billion had been given as the stimulus package after COVID-19. Now, we know except, I don't know, as I said, I am not an economist, and accepting on Leontief input out model. Leontief is a guy who got a Nobel Prize for his work in 1947, where he identifies in terms of growth and then brings about how it is going to be affected in various sectors. That is an important aspect of what the government has to do. What the government, particularly in this area, is quietly putting in a figure, as I had discussed last time also, about economic growth, says about 9% or to 8% to 9%. they have to change the method in which bring down from top to bottom. That is a capital output ratio. We should not do that. Even in India, I'm telling them again and again. I wrote a letter to the Prime Minister also on the stimulus package. When they do it for various sectors of the stimulus package, whether it reaches them is a very important. The economists simply say yes. If you have the investment or stimulus package given, then there will be a, uh, economy will revive. That is purely imagination, as far as I'm concerned. I have prepared the one as a blueprint which has been prepared is in terms of identifying the various sectors. If you are going to give about $250 billion to various sectors, to whom are you giving? Are you giving to the electricity people? For what? If you're going to give the electricity and all that, what are you expecting that electricity companies to revive? How are they going to revive? So the adoption of this methodology is very, very important. As I discussed earlier also on the EPP, the EPP is how that effort per person is has to be brought into focus, and that is where is an important aspect. I'll just give one example. I'd written an article on uh, this agriculture. The agriculture of India is about 450 to 475 billion dollars, whereas China is about $1 trillion. And China and India were neck to neck until 1993. After 93, it went up very fast as for China. So when the China is going to be at one, is already about $1 trillion economy, whereas India is only, 450 billion dollars. Yet they were able to give a free ration to 90 million people on 900 million people. I don't know. Yeah, 900 million people they could give a free ration for several months. And that is the backbone of this country. But they can't stop it. There are the agriculture, if you look at it, if you look at the farmers, there's a thing called farmer producing companies, farmer producing agencies. And there is created just like a limited company. There are about 1,000 shareholders maximum. Each shareholder puts only a small amount of 1,000 and it forms a company. And one of the well-established FPOs, and there are about 45,000 to 50,000 FPOs in a state of Gujarat, and each having about 1,000. You are covering more than about 450,000 farmers. Each farmer has to be identified. If you are giving a farmer, there's a lot of things like, Indian economy, if it has to, the agriculture economy has to reach 1 trillion, is not an easy task. These are the farmers who are going to do that. If you are going to develop a methodology in terms of bringing out how that, say, about 40% CAGR needed for the Indian agriculture economy, it depends on, for example, to give an example of, say, peanuts. The peanuts, there are several countries number one in terms of production. India is 32 and China is 13 in terms of, but they are the number one and two in terms of volume. But in terms of the efficiency factor, how they are getting that better this thing is China is 13 and India is about 32 or that sort of thing. Now, if they have to improve upon from 32 to 1, India, Israel is number 2 in terms of yield. And if that yield for Israel is going to be good, which they're very good actually, in terms of utilization of water, utilization of various aspects of grains, you got to invest. As Professor James Elrich the other day said, it's low tech. In this place that is a developing economy, it's a low tech, is not a big investment are coming. So if you are going to keep a target of $450 billion to $1 trillion, for which I require AI, I require various equipment, various water methodology, conservation part of it, and yield has to grow up and give whatever that you want to give to the farmers. It's identifiable, it's measurable, and for which there should be a first thing is ethical responsibility. That is, there is no corruption in between. And if you call for an FDI will very easily come. They will invest any amount that you want. As on today, when we are talking about the CO2 emission, that is my main reason why I'm going to Ahmedabad. 70 million MSMEs. We are talking of how the CO2 emission is going to be controlled to bring the zero emission profit. The same thing is for the agriculture. Agriculture also, they say methane is coming and the grain is used is also converted into CO2. Elon Musk said only today it is immediately converted to CO2. And how they are going to control and as well as increase the productivity. That is in terms of $450 billion to $1 trillion within a specified time space, within that corruption free, within that ethical responsibility. Then a requirement of that FDI is huge. And we can very easily get it. That is my aim, to go to Ahmedabad tomorrow and construct that value system, how we can attract the foreign FDI for, say, any of those things which 70 million MSMEs are being involved. We are going to select about 700,000 to start with. The best of the people are, even though they are directly not involved, like, Indira Parikh was ex-dean of IIM Ahmedabad, and her student is now running the Harvard Business School dean. He is also joining. One of the top men of the Microsoft is also joining. The intention is that my approach, attract the funds. To attract the funds, these are the three things. Number one, corruption free. Number two, productivity. Number three, we are getting the equipment in terms of for the productivity, etc. If we are able to do that, the economy will develop, and is a very, very important. If we can look at it, and I have done my work on that. I'm very keen, because today I was wearing a trouser going everywhere for the hospital. I went for RT-PCR test. I was wearing a trouser which was made in Bangladesh, but I bought it in London, and that sort of thing. So there are a lot of potential is that. Like input model of Leontief, yeah, nation, the national, that's one thing. They can keep say how you are going to get that over. Like I said about agriculture, same case with Bangladesh with regard to the various sectors that they are developing, and they are doing well. And then CAGR converted into CDGR, and keep a track of EPP. Effort per person for each and every sector is very crucial. Don't go by the capital output ratio. If you invest about 36% of your GDP into further, your growth rate will improve. In my opinion, no. You got to measure what is the energy contribution for each and every person. You start from bottom to the top, each and every company. We can definitely say so.
Thank you. We have our another world famous speaker, Professor Kirpal from Singapore.
Hello.
Yes, Professor, how are
Hi.
you today?
I'm
And
very
we
well,
are
thanks, Uddin. How are you?
Thank you. I'm fine. Thank you, Professor. Professor,
Right.
we are discussing about investment and enterprise for developing nations. Yeah.
Yes.
So how you want to analyze to this topic, and especially if you have any model. I know you have excellent model for future of university. Definitely we will go for special episode with your team. But today we're going to discuss about investment and enterprise for developing nation. What your strategy or blueprint and idea you want to share with us?
I was thinking about this. Thank you, first of all, for having me on the program. Shahruddin, as always, is a great pleasure and privilege. I was thinking about it the last 2, 3 days, and I thought there might be a possibility, yeah. And I think my learned, uh, fellow speakers on the panel can come in and help me. You remember what happened after World War II? The Marshall Plan was instituted to resurrect the economy of the nations that were wrecked during the war. And of course, the chief contributor to this was the USA. But I think maybe now there is another need for this as well. And perhaps now we, may not need only one big nation to come in and help, but a consortium, like say a group of 4 or 5 nations coming together to help 20 or 30 developing nations. So you immediately think of Japan, you think of America, you think of Germany, you think possibly of France as well, maybe the UK, and they can form a good group and support a lot of the very ailing economies of the world today. And given the pandemic and all the other obstacles that come with it in terms of international trade, and therefore, the impact is greater, the result would be a slow and maybe even a painful process to arrive at good investments, to boost up good industries. But hey, if you look at the ways in which people are investing, say in the ASEAN region, our region, right? If you think of the ways in which China is moving out and helping a lot of different nations around the world, and the way you think that to counter China's big, sort of generous moves in all these countries, America and the West and some European nations are also trying to counter that, meaning they're also coming to say, take my help as well, not just China's. In fact, better still, why don't you not take China and just take my help? I mean, a lot of these kind of negotiations and bargaining are in the process and in the works. So I would say actually this is a very good time for taking advantage because the opportunities are legion. There's so many opportunities out there in different fields, from education, which is very marked in our part, ASEAN, to food production, which is very, very important, to maybe even the manufacture of medicines, because now with pandemic, endemic, and all these things coming up, all these terms are becoming familiar. A lot of different industries are going to boom in the next 5-6 months. So it's good to take advantage of these things now. Yes.
Mhm. Thank you, Professor Kirpal. We have our another speaker from Bangladesh, Mr. Saleh.
Yeah.
So how you want to analyze today's topic, and if you want to share some of your experience from Bangladesh, I love to learn more about micro initiative and small medium enterprise, how they managing different investment and how they manage their startup and enterprise.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to participate among the distinguished guests from all over the world. So our today's topic is based on the enterprise and investment opportunities in developing world. So as per your reference that you would like to tell me to discuss. So, regarding micro enterprise, if I would like to consider the recent activities that mainly boom in Bangladesh, and that is e-commerce. So, like during pandemic, uh, people are not allowed to go outside, so they mainly rely on e-commerce at most. So in this time, many people, not related to the formal businessmen that they used to before, but some of them are students, some of them are housewives, and they start investing their very small amount of capital to build enterprise. They made a page on Facebook, and they start out selling different kinds of products, and they offer home delivery service so that people don't have to go outside. So during this pandemic, it creates more opportunity for SMEs and micro enterprise to unleash the entrepreneurial opportunities. And I have observed in many of my acquaintances that they are now quite successful. Like they start business with one or two particular products. Now they're offering more than 100 products. So actually, this creates a very good opportunity, and also like our country, they they made some policies for promoting the digital Bangladesh aspect. So actually, this total framework, and this is a good for every for the person to generate employment as well, because as you know, that for all of the world we have been suffering from the unemployment. Many people have lost their job due to pandemic, and this micro enterprise opportunities through Facebook and other digital means, they generate money, and they create their own employment opportunities. They made themselves independent. So actually, it's a very good thing, I would say. But yes, there are some drawbacks as well. We have seen that there are some fraudulent activities that we have been observed in this Facebook commerce as well, and and many people are being cheated by the unscrupulous people. So actually, this is a drawback of the e-commerce movement in Bangladesh.
Mm.
But despite the negative fact, we would like to focus on the positive things. Is that people are not that much used to in doing online transaction. They are not much used to in relying on e-commerce. But now they are relying on e-commerce. And actually, thanks to Facebook, Facebook creates opportunity. So yes, they can made their page free of course, so they can do it by their own means.
Mhm.
So
Thank you. Mr. Saleh, one of the things in my mind, because I saw that in Bangladesh, especially the many people actually investing or the buying product from eValley, Ring ID, and different kind of e-commerce. And it's one of the failure. I see, I think that we need better policy. Even many times I discuss with the government and the corporation. I try to give them a better feedback, even personally, that how we can develop better policy, because without good policy, this kind of unhealthy business execution happening again and again, and maybe some of the people, all the organization, they become benefited and much of the people will fall. We saw same thing in different project development. We saw same thing in e-commerce. We saw same thing even in share market. So I think there is a big challenge for better policy. So we have Professor Kirpal. I'm a big fan of Singapore. Even in World Talent Economy Forum, many of the developed nations, they take Singapore as a good model, because Singapore has world-class environment as well as better policy. And how actually the developing nations can get their guideline from Asia Pacific, especially from Singapore, especially this kind of policy related challenges, and how government can create better policy and they can overcome from these challenges. Professor Kirpal, can you unmute please? Professor Kirpal, can you unmute please? Professor Kirpal, can you
Hear me?
unmute please? Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me now? Yes. Can you all hear me now? Yes. You can, right?
Yes.
Can? Okay. No. So I think there's plenty that we can share with any nation that wants to follow Singapore's example of getting in good investments. The problem with investments is that many of the investors are looking at the I think to get good, solid investors, especially in the developing economies, who are looking at the middle and longer term. And this is very important, because if you go in early and you get the rewards 5 years from now, the rewards are going to be huge. But if you want to go in and make profit within a year and get away, then one has to be comfortable with small profits. So I think the kind of investments we are looking at, and the kind of industries or commercial businesses into which money is going to be done, are of very special interest. Each nation will have to decide what is of paramount importance to that particular nation. For example, in Singapore, we are really looking at the super aviation industry now. So not just the ordinary airplanes, but the manufacture as well as the use of super aeroplanes that will fly very, very fast and bring passengers to different destinations in quick time. So this is just one example, diversification of your economic growth engines. Each nation has to decide what are your most powerful growth engines, and the pandemic experience told us that many of us who depend, for example, Singapore is really dependent on tourism, but tourism hit very, very hard in the last 2 years because of COVID. As a result, we have to think of alternative ways of trying to attract investment to Singapore. And one of the factors that we may consider as investment are people visiting the country, because they're investing their time and their money when they fly to a country, and they're spending the money in the country in hotel rooms, in buses, taxis, and restaurants and all of that. So in order to give these things a boost, the nations must have something unique to offer other nations, to offer their neighbors. And especially in COVID, we need to offer safety. I think this is very, very important. And so Singapore is insisting that our visitors vaccinations and all of that. And of course, those who want to get vaccinated on the spot at the airport, available as well. And so these details have to be worked out very, very carefully. It's not easy. It's not easy. It takes a lot of hard work and planning.
Thank you. Madam Durgadash, you are running a corporations from Silicon Valley to India, even you are exploring your business worldwide. So yes, like I have only one point example when we try to engage with different traditional organizations from developing nations. I think there's a big gap, I'm sure, about the investment and how to bring the investors, what type of policy they have to apply, or how they can follow the investors guideline. This is actually huge gap, huge. Even many mature companies still they are not caring about this kind of thing. Yes, India in some point in many organization they are practicing, they are moving, and this is actually big challenges. What is your advice how we can overcome from this situation? Even though the education institutions, I think they have to restructure their academy and their knowledge, this kind of entrepreneur can train themselves. What is your advice what we can do to solve this kind of problem?
So I lived and worked in the Valley for 25 years building technology companies. And fortunately, every company I worked with, maybe it was just a good time for them and for me, every company was at some point acquired from by somebody else, which created a lot of momentum in my life, a lot of knowledge in my life, and also kind of motivated me to continue to forge on the entrepreneurial journey. It was in that context I felt that I should contribute to the entrepreneurial journey for entrepreneurs in India, and that's why I came back. My experience in 10 years of investing in India and in Indian entrepreneurs left me, not feeling very satisfied, and unfortunately, also opened my eyes to the problems that exist not only for entrepreneurs but also and caused by the policies and government and banking systems and things like that. But also the fact that investors also were, probably misled or carried away by entrepreneurs. So it was a two-way street in terms of not doing the right thing. I cannot blame just investors, and nor do I blame just entrepreneurs. My experience and observation came from both perspectives. And what is that perspective? I find entrepreneurs in India, and I'm writing a book for entrepreneurs. It's got a very interesting name. Not It's a little difficult to digest, but it's got a point. The name of the book is "If You Want to Shit Well." It's a very simple reason why that is the name of the book, and I'll explain it. Have you seen the night before? People say, I don't eat after 7 o'clock. I drink warm milk before I go to bed. Some people eat 2 spoons of isabgul for better digestion in the morning. All this preparation they do in the night for a good morning's shift, right? In the morning, if you see people, they will have tea, coffee, newspaper, cigarette, whatever they need, whatever tickles that tummy to get working, and the focus that needs to be applied to get the job done. To the extent that they will not see family, friends, nothing else matters in their life except what it is to get this job done. And finally, have you ever seen anyone who goes inside that bathroom that says, oops, I have to meet Mr. Iyer in 15 minutes, so let me finish the rest later? No, no, no. Nobody leaves a job half done. They will have a very shitty day. They will finish the job as best as they can, 100%, before they leave that bathroom, at the cost of everybody else banging on that door. So I said, my God, for this job of shitting, we plan the night before. We have 100% focus and commitment in the morning, and we never leave the job half done. Why don't we do this for everything in life? In our entrepreneurial journey, we will succeed for sure. So this book is an interesting book for entrepreneurs. This is the what can I say, the premise and the base of the book, but there are interesting chapters of why entrepreneurs in the valley, in Silicon Valley, are incredibly different from entrepreneurs in India. And one of my observations was it was culture. Our parents have struggled, or rather my generation of parents have struggled, and my parents also struggled. And so we want to give the best, most comfortable, most easy path for our child to success. So we don't let them struggle at all. We don't let them face challenges. We tell them take the safe route. That is why I struggled. Why are you doing the same? So this struggle is a negative thing. In my opinion, struggle is everything that is required to make you a champion. If you don't struggle, if you don't face challenge, you cannot be a champion. It's impossible. Unless you know what tail is, you will never appreciate what the head is. The two sides of the coin are what makes coin valuable. So I think so I can elaborate more, but I want to keep my observations short. And when I finish the book, I'll definitely share it at your forum. But the observation is that entrepreneurs in India are not necessarily bad, but because of the culture and the surroundings, and I think this may be in other parts of Asia as well, they are not, their mindset is not conducive to facing challenge and staying the ride. The first time I want to be an entrepreneur. Of course, it's a great new word that everyone wants to embrace. The next thing is I get some money, I will start thinking I'm implementing it right without understanding the business and the overall perspective. And many of our entrepreneurs are not multitasked, right? They don't understand finance, a little bit of finance, a little bit of sales, a little bit of product. They are very singular in their educational approach. So that's all they do. If I know engineering, that's all I know. I don't know how to do design. I don't know how to do product financing. I don't know how to manage money. I don't know how to manage a team. But yet I want to be an entrepreneur. But you're required to be multifaceted if you want to be a successful entrepreneur. So we also lack this. So the entrepreneurial journey is, of course, wanted by many. But how many of them are suited to it is another question altogether. On the other side, from an investor side, my experience in the Valley was, I see that the idea has merit. I see there's a potential market opportunity. I see that this person has struggled and done in the past, and whether they won or lost is irrelevant. They have the knowledge because of their experience. I'm going to back them. Whereas in India, they want to know your P&L, their balance sheet, your last 5 years. When you say, excuse me, I'm a startup. What do you mean by 5 years? Where will the 5 years come from when I'm starting out? It's impossible. So what is it that I can give you to show that this is something you should invest in? So the Indian investor is a banker, not necessarily a VC, not somebody who will take a risk on an idea. They are very risk averse. And they have a checklist that says, are you from IIT? Are you from IIM? And any of those renowned institutions. Just because you went to an institution, you could have been smoking up something. They're playing hooky, joining a band. Maybe education is something we all gain from different aspects, not only from an educational institution. While it is important, it doesn't make the person who went into that institution superior to the one who didn't go to that institution. Right? But this is part of a checklist for investors. You're not IIT, Durga. What to do? You're not from IIM. What to do? I'll say what to do. Don't do. Right? If you cannot go by the merit of what someone has experienced and then say, this is a possible, this is a market, this is a good product, this is the opportunity, this is the person, this is the team, let's go with it. And not look at a checklist, because this checklist is again why our investors are risk averse. If somebody, their principles, question them about a failure tomorrow, they want to say, no, but see, I checked IIT, IIM, so and so has passed this. They've got a checklist that they can mitigate their risk and their failure. So this is the problem on the investor side. We don't think as genuine investors. We think more like bankers. And that is a problem for the entrepreneurial system in India as well. And most probably so in many of the developing countries, but probably I would say Singapore is a little more far-sighted. They have done some incredible work in creating an ecosystem for entrepreneurs and supporting them. The government, if then they announce policies, genuinely reach that entrepreneur. Whereas in India, we announce a policy, but again, the big people take it away. It never goes down to where it should. Right. And I'm sure in many of the other developing countries like Bangladesh, Malaysia, this might be a problem. I don't have news or information that I can state with authority, but it's definitely something that I envision is the same in those countries as well. And over here, it's definitely a problem. The government says 10,000 crores put aside for, like Mr. Iyer is doing, for MSMEs. But how much of that will actually reach the right MSMEs? Right? How many of them are going to follow a checklist because one, I know so and so, or I know that politician, and then somebody else says I am IIT, I am, and therefore I should get the money. How much of them truly come down to the projects that matter, to the people that will genuinely take it to fruition and see ideas succeed? Unless we genuinely do that exercise, our failure rate will always be very high. Right? Our failure rate of startups in the world, and one of the reasons I came to India to try to do a different model, is look at 200 IIMs. You invest in 20 companies. Out of the 20, 12 will die in the first year. 8 will be floundering. 2 would have done some jugaad to manage to survive. But why? You went through your checklist. You gave 20 from 200. Why only 2 are somehow managing to stay up there? Everyone else is gone. That is a terrible failure rate. And I try to understand what that means and how one can change it. And that's also part of my book, of what I'm trying to write, to share, that I think our perspective of how to analyze a startup, how to analyze an entrepreneur, how to bring, and not necessarily the right ideas with the right entrepreneur all the time, right? Sometimes this guy may think, or girl may think, this is my great idea, but doesn't have the qualifications to make this great idea take wings. Maybe another entrepreneur can do a better job. And maybe this person has to do something else because they don't have the right, multifaceted qualities to take this idea to fruition, right? So simply put, great ideas need landing gears as well as wings. It's not enough to have a great idea. One must also know how to land this plane, otherwise we'll crash and burn, right? And so I think it's important to analyze the needs of entrepreneurs from one perspective, also analyze the need of investors from the other perspective, because both are at this point dismally in a bad state. And no matter how much money the government wants to put, unless the government has people who have the authority, uninfluenced by political needs, who have the ability to make sure that money trickles down to the right entrepreneurs and the right ideas, I don't think as a people, as a nation, as nations, we will truly see entrepreneurial journeys and ideas reach, the level of stardom that they potentially can reach. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Durgadas, for your excellent analysis. This is the challenges I believe that developing nations actually have. I think Mr. Arman he has a meeting. Professor Kirpal, I will give you a chance because this is really important discussion. Mr. Saleh, one aspect I just want to, as you are in academy, how Madam Durgadas is actually Madam Durgadas for me is a big inspiration. How he actually share her personal life and her entrepreneurial journey. It's a very inspirational for me and other speakers and our audience. But my question is that when like country like Bangladesh and this country come, so what is the situation for entrepreneurs, and second things, how actually university or academic corporations or government supporting these entrepreneurs.
Okay, so thank you. So there are two aspects that you asked to discuss me. So the first aspect is about
I
the
would say one of the
entrepreneurial
situation.
situation. So the first is that there are
Pro-
some
just a minute.
frameworks.
Get the best
professor
advisors in the world
Professor
to
Kirpal,
come to your country
Professor
and advise
Kirpal,
you how
I
to
want to
move
give you a
forward
chance.
in a confident, strong, and winning manner. Not a losing manner, but a winning manner. I think very important. You know, it's just like if you invest in a good car, the car is going to last for a long time, and you won't have too much trouble with repairs and all of that. So if you invest in a good economic advisor or group of the advisors, then you are in very safe hands, and your nation will prosper and grow. So there must be the initial say, and there are many helping agencies that help developing countries, from the United Nations to other, developing funds and all of that. So World Bank, there are many agencies that are to help developing countries to develop faster and better, think get the best advice and move. But you must have people willing to move with you. In other words, you've got to educate your population properly so that they get their priorities right. They suffer a little bit today for a very beautiful and glorious tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Saleh, what's your concluding remarks? Mr. Saleh.
Uh, so yes, so a bit odd. Okay. Anyway,
Then,
what I would
okay, John,
what I would like to say
can,
is
right?
about sorry.
Yes, Mr. Saleh.
Education is a
Yes,
very
Sorry.
yes.
important investment
So
because
actually,
if you
there
go
are some
visit our
intention.
country, you want to know whether they are safe and whether the country is clean. If they know that the country is safe
Thank you.
and clean, they are willing to come and help and grow the country even to greater heights. And this was the route that Singapore took. So we put in quite a bit of money at the start, but it's like an investment. You invest good money, you get very good returns if all goes well. So, of course, there are some risks, and you got to diversify your products. If you don't put all your eggs in one basket, right, the old proverb. So put your eggs in a few baskets, but good baskets, strong baskets, and very sellable baskets. Yeah, that's important. And get help. Get help from anywhere you can get help from, even from enemies. One of the problems is that we are sometimes a bit shy to ask countries that we think are not very friendly with us. But there's no harm asking. Ask the country and see what they say. See what the experts of that country say. And they might be able to help in ways that we may not have thought about. So I think it's very important we do that. But at the heart of everything, for tomorrow, we really need to educate our people today. That's very fundamental. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Radha. Professor Mamun, I'm coming to you. Before that, Mr. Radha.
Well, let me just have a recharge of what Durgada has said. I'll tell you what I have put in the book, why the entrepreneurs are not what they ought to be. I have mentioned them as living in a Plato's cave. The Plato's cave is a very interesting observation by Plato. And there are prisoners in that place. And in front of the prisoners, they're all chained. They're all in front of it. There's a space, vacant space, and from behind there's a light that is being beamed. So these prisoners look at that shadow, whatever that is being projected, and they enjoy it. And that is how they are living. One of the prisoners said, "What is it? I am going to get stuck up in this place forever." So he unchains himself and escapes the place. He goes out and finds out amazingly thing different from what they have seen. He had so far been experienced. He comes back. He comes back and persuades all the people, "Get out. There's something more to be seen." And none of them are ready to leave that place. That is what the guys who are running a show. I am really amazed of seeing very many people. I want $1 million tomorrow. I know everything. I don't need to be advised by somebody. You tell me whether you are able to get me $1 billion or not. I know how to run my company. These guys do not know how to run their company. And that is why they go to NCLT and this thing. Can you imagine like a person like Anil Advani? I mean, in terms of billions of dollars had been wasted, which had been given to them. So this is a major problem. Some of the best companies which had been, gone to NCLT, fortunately Tata's had taken over, like Bush and Steel. And how? Is one of the finest companies. It's a very good company in terms of technology and what I had been through, but they don't know how to run it. And they're all in the Plato's cave. And many of the managers, the retained managers, who have been companies like they call themselves best companies, like Unilever, that sort of thing. And what do they contribute today? They are not ready to change what they have been accustomed to. So they are living in the Plato's cave. Very difficult to change the mindset of all these guys is going to take time. And this is where I would like to persuade and come out with something totally different. Change management. When you have about 100,000 people in a company, you're using only about 100. I'm talking you to use all the 100,000 energy force. Then you are going to change. Complete change has to come. I hope it will come. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Professor Mamun. Actually, Madam Durgadash, Professor Kirpals, and Mr. Raja bring many interesting points, specifically entrepreneurial environment. Second things, from my perspective, it's not actually complaint. I'm just trying to share some views, like how we can develop a better environment for entrepreneur. This is also important. We saw many challenges like eValley, uh, and different e-commerce site, how they are manipulating the business environment. This is also this is Professor for Professor Mamun. I'm giving chance for Professor Mamun. Yes.
Thank you
So
so much.
yes,
Yeah.
Professor Mamun, like policy is a major issue. In some point, policy is a major issue, and I believe a country like Bangladesh, somehow they cannot manage the policy properly. I want to say Bangladesh has many talented like you. Maybe they are underutilized in policy level, and that's why this kind of in entrepreneurial manipulations, not only e-commerce, in share market, in housing industries, in energy industries, everywhere some sort of mismanagement happening because of lack of better policy. So how you want to analyze, and what is the situation, how we can improve, actually our objective to find out the solution.
Thank you so much. Very good initiative and good topic, particularly what you mentioned that if we analyze in that way, I'm so lucky that I got the speech of the our CEO, Madam Durga Das. So because Madam is from the practitioner's point of view, real life application. And we are the academics, we are the theoretical knowledge and something. So definitely we like to learn or like to learn what is the real happening, what is the real situation. So thank you, Madam. And you know that I just give the one scenario before going to this your queries. Say suppose 20 years before, say our this country like subcontinent countries, if we when you deliver the lecture, that time we said that how we can become the good employee. Particularly more 30 years before we said that how you can be the government employee. So look very carefully. Means 30 years before we said how you could become the good government employee. And not only this, some of the people they change their age so that they can go to the like the join in the government organization because there's some age limit. And then it's changing. Then we are planning the why not the private sector. So now they are planning for the employee in the private sector, changing. And now, if you ask me the last I said the 5 to 10 years, we started to discuss how we could become the entrepreneurs. So we are changing our academic thinking. And now, when you deliver the lecture, I don't want to give the example. You will be the employee in the government firm, in the private firm. We say that when you will become the entrepreneur, how you can start, and that's we are discuss this kind of subject like the strategic leadership, entrepreneurship. We have different courses. We also try to teach in the undergraduate level and master's level. And definitely this kind of the people like the industry people, if we invite them, if they deliver their experience they can share, it will add more values. So I think you already understand our perspective is going to be changed from the employee to become the employer. But it's not an easy journey what we say that how we can become the how we become the like employer. So what we have to do, what we have to need, first of all we have to change our mindset. It's very
Excellent. Yeah.
important. Change the mindset. I think Madam also explained something, and our Sir Raja sir also mentioned something. What he mentioned, absolutely right. So let us study this mindset. Now the next one is that when you are become the entrepreneur means you have to invest the money, right? And why you will like to invest the money? Return of investment, right? So now come to the question that when we discuss this break-even analysis, when you teach in the class, break-even analysis, we always mention that you never think that you'll get the profit within 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. Even the break-even analysis said that in 3 years, so you have to project the next 3 to 5 years, something like that. Means we are trying to give this phenomena the real case application. When you invest the money, it's not like that you get the return within 1 or 2 or 3 years. You have to do the break-even analysis mathematically, theoretically, but practically it will be like that. It will take the more time. But you have to need the right mindset. So you are doing the investment not for present. You are doing the investment, maybe will get the return after the few years, after the long term. And then you know that what you said, the developing country. I just I have experience in the teaching profession in the Thailand, Malaysia, Bangladesh, and India, Indonesia, USA. So what I am observing, our social structure is changing. Suppose the students in the undergraduate level or the master's level in the USA, they are thinking, and our Indian region, our thinking are the same. Even I noticed that Singapore, Malaysia students, their thinking and our subcontinent thinking is little different. What I say, I noticed that Thailand students, they are planning when they are undergraduate student or they have the like undergraduate already, the MBA, how they will start the new business, startup business, small business, and then how they like to expand the business, something like that. But our thinking is that we have to we after finish our undergraduate level, we have to go to the job, we get the money. And I use the term is that it's like that very small thinking, not the visionary thinking. So it is our fault. We could not create this environment for our students. I would say that we need that kind of mentality, visionary. Leader and manager is not the same. But if you have the like the thinking of the leadership, and if it's a like visionary, then you can be a good manager as well. But if you're a good manager, there is no guarantee that you'll be a good leader. So let us start in this way. Then how we can create the good leadership. So need the projection for future, not in the present. Future projection. What will happen after 20 years? What will happen 30 years? Say, if you ask the question nowadays when you are deliver the lecture, we always say that not only just supply chain. We are talking about the like how we can apply technology-driven something, how we can incorporate the industry with the like academics, because industry is a part of that one, so that the student they can think how they can be a good employer in near future. And now come to the question is that suppose now you're an entrepreneur, how will you manage it? It is not like that you will the entrepreneur for the like the 1 month. Well, you have to sustain, right? I think that Madam would say the very positive something and real experience you can share. We always mention one thing: the good governance. As an entrepreneur, you have to ensure the good governance in your enterprise, and how you could ensure the good governance. So you need that kind of human resource. Even I would say that it is not the necessary every time we need the skill human resource. Even unskilled human resource, you have to convert them the skill human resource by the training, by the leadership, by the enthusiastic work, something like that. So it is a continuous process. It is not like that within the one we can do this, but we need that kind of mentality thinking. Maybe the initial level we have to provide some investment, small investment for the loan, government loan. So the government, even public and private sector, you have to think of the how you can give the startup for in order to start the startup business, how you can provide a small investment, at least for the like the loan, that will be the percentage of interest will be a little bit lower than the regular person for the investment. So it is add some values, and then they have to think the next level how we can expand this business. Definitely they have to think nowadays we should not think about the like the country based business, we have to think the globalized business. This is the next paradigm shift, how we can go to international business. So we need the international connectivity, networking. So this is the another platform that when you are the entrepreneur, if you just think the small perspective, you should not be fair. You have to think, you have to observe the global phenomena, global culture, and how we can connect there. So look very carefully how we started. We started further our education system change. So our professors, our lecturer, university faculty member, they have to think that their mindset change at first. Employee to employer, how they can become the entrepreneur. So that then after the graduation, they have to think, let us start a small startup business. Then they have to think the leadership quality, what is it, the visionary. They have to think like when they have a small business, how they could ensure the good governance in the industry. We have to do the practice. It is one kind of practice in the industry. It is one kind of practice in the enterprise, the good governance, ethical issues. I know that in our country, the IPDC, this is our financial institution. When they started their business, I know very well. He is very familiar with me, the managing director and CEO of the IPDC. Is very renowned in Bangladesh and Indian reserve. You know how they are doing the business, last 10 years business. If you see the growth, I have an opportunity to share with them the discussion, and they also share the discussion. What they say, they try to maintain the ethical cultures within the organization, good governance, and then it is a real impact outside. We always think about the like customers, right? But we don't sometimes forget that our employees is also the internal customer. So if we have a good practice within the organization, good governance, they will be our ambassador. So they have to think how they connect with the international level, how they connect with the other level, how they will bring the like external customer to the organization. This is the one question that what I said, the development. So when you are become the entrepreneur, our perspective will be like that, how we could add more values to the organization, and that is the way that how we can think of sustainable, good governance within the system, within our enterprise management system. So I believe that this is our one kind of philosophical change. What I said earlier, the employee to employer. So how we can add the more values by the entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This is actually excellent discussions. Actually, that is the area World Talent Economy Forum we are working, like political organizations, academicians, as well as corporation. We have to work together. Political organizations and the political party, they have to think individually they are not enough. Uh, Academicians, they have to understand that individually they are not enough, and corporation, they have to understand individually they are not enough. When these three institutions and three pillars of a state, they work together, and they think that okay, we can move with a mutual understanding based on the global demand, then we can find out better solutions. So that is the things we are working, and hopefully it will be applicable in the developing nations. I directly want to go for the concluding remarks. I want to start from Mr. Raja. Mr. Raja, what's your concluding remarks today?
Well, I'm happy to have participated in this meeting, and a lot to be done. If WTE forum is ready to take up, like country-wise, like Bangladesh and Thailand and other places, the blueprint could be created in Malaysia also. start with the blueprint for the total economy. There are several things like CO2 emissions coming from 2030 targets, 2050 targets. There's going to be a big conference of all these nations, I think in 26th of October. So a lot of things are being expected. And the subsidies for fuel emission is nearly about, Guardian guy said, $11 million per minute. Is that trillions of dollars are being used, and there are millions of companies are waiting for growth. There is a lot of pressure coming in. It's all money is being held by finance companies and not by others to spend or invest. So we got to be very careful about it, and that requires a lot of planning. That planning is a strategy plan for 2030, all inclusive, is what I would like WTE Forum takes up for any of the countries, associated countries. Then I'm only a catalyst, so I can give my idea and make a policy statement, strategy plan for 2030, and so that not only for this, so all over. That is CREAM ratings, is corporate governance, risk management, earnings, accounting quality, and management quality. So the accounting quality and management quality is the value system. If individual companies establish a value system, that is a raw material for profits. If the value system is that, sustainability of profits is and growth are available. If this value system is not there, but good efficiency, running efficiency department, sustainability efficiency gives you only the profits, and it may or may not, continuity of profits may not be there. So I would like to persuade companies to go for a sustainable value system and measure everything. It is possible, make use of the people within the company. Do not take for granted a janitor or a foot soldier is not a person who is important, not important, and that sort of a thing. Everybody is important in their own field. A potter and the nuclear scientists are the same. That is what I would like countries to go in for. And GNH and GDP can be comboed. So the society improves. Unless the society improves, is a linear, progress. There is no quantum jump for a company to become a $10 million company today to $100 million tomorrow. It's not possible. There is a linear progress for each and every. That linear progress is assured by the value system. Everybody takes care of it. Then only it will improve. Otherwise, it will have a problem. It's the same thing for all the developing economies. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Durgadas. What's your concluding remarks?
So I think, of course, we've discussed it from an academic point of view. We've discussed it from a policy point of view. I think coming from an entrepreneur's point of view, we talk about good governance. We talk about bringing the right systems in place. We talk about hiring the right people to implement good governance. All of this costs money. How many entrepreneurs that are building ideas and startups have the money to hire these people to put all this in place? How many such entrepreneurs with ideas have the multifaceted qualities if they can't hire to do it themselves? They may come from IIT. Does that make a person a qualified chartered accountant? No. Has he got the experience to make sure his books are balanced every day? No. Right? We can get a guy from IIM. Okay, he may know some accounting, but can he understand how to manage marketing spend? Can he understand how to make product development and design at the right price? Can he hire the people who can manage his statutory requirements? If money is required to bring all of these things in place, then the investor must invest in the idea at starting, at the scratch, so that the entrepreneur has the wherewithal of all this expertise and experience around him to build on the idea with governance, with right advice, right support, with the plan and projections done on a proper linear method, and not just some jugaad which jumps from 0 to 100 million suddenly one day because 4 people decided it should become this valuation, right? So I think that is very important, because if on investors come and ask entrepreneurs, right? Well, what have you done so far? How much have you invested in this, and what is your balance sheet? And then they look at the, let's assume he has done all of that, and then they look at these numbers, and then they say, oh well, but this is not right, statutorily you have not met the requirements, no, that has not been filed. Now what does he do? And because of that, he doesn't get investment. So I think one has to look at this quite holistically. While everything is good in theory, right? In practical experience, in my practical experience, and I've been an entrepreneur for 40 years. I started when I was 14 years old, when I knew nothing. All I knew is I needed to put food on the table. I had to pay my school fees. I had no choice. There was no business, no money, no great idea, other than the idea that I need money to feed my family. That was the idea, great idea. So what do? I take the skills I have, play cricket. Okay, let me sell a bat and a ball, and then take that and build a business out of it. So where is the question of understanding business and structure and a business plan and governance and filing and paperwork and statute? It just didn't exist. But if I had had that kind of support while I built it, maybe my business when I was 14 would today be $1 billion business. It wouldn't have just ended as a business that fed my family. Certainly, the experience taught me a lot, but the idea didn't reach its potential because I didn't have that support system. So I think I would love to have people like Mr. Iyer and Professor Habib, people from academia, people from policy, people with a great amount of experience who can teach entrepreneurs. And entrepreneurship is not based only for young people. I am still an entrepreneur. I would love to learn more. Without learning, there is no growing. So I would love to have Professor Habib and Mr. Iyer be right behind me and say, Durga, let's put this in place. Let's do this in place. At least this idea of yours, let's take it to the greatest heights. So I think that kind of a platform should be necessary and available for all entrepreneurs, for us to truly see them succeed and follow the practices that we're recommending to them. But otherwise, it's going to be a very hard journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Durgadash. Professor Mamun, what's your concluding remarks?
I would say that we need we have to create the bonding academia industry. Suppose this kind of like a CEO or Madam Durgadash, they have to be not like the speaking in this way. They have to speak in the academics level, and it's our job to invite them because then students, graduating students, they have to learn what is practically happening. And definitely
Professor
they
Mamun,
deserve.
Professor Mamun, I just want to add, before the session, I think I say the same thing, Madam Durga, that you should join in academy. Am I right, Madam Durga?
The problem is that we have a one barrier. That Dr. Sharif, I think we already understood. That academics, they do not like the industry people, and industry, they don't like the academics people. And we have to this cross boundary should be like matched. This is the time to march now. And I would say that academic point of view, we need the expert like Professor Durgadash. You see, our Raja sir, he is the policy maker, he is the economist, he's the economic point of view. This kind of people, the asset, but we have to invite them to that kind of environment so they can deliver something for the next generation. And unfortunately, I say this is our failure that we're going to create this environment. But I like to request both of them. My plan is that I like to invite you. And now is that that during the COVID-19, I always say this is the one opportunity for us. At least say Dr. Shuri what he's doing now. We could not think this kind of platform like the 10 years before. There is something with online discussion or something will be this kind of discussion. Now it's happening. I believe Dr. Shuri is creating the one kind of avenue for us. Let's do work for the betterment of the society by the academia industry collaboration. Thank you so much.
Actually, World Talent Economy Forum, we have Academy, School of Talent Economy. We want to invite academicians, industrial people, and politicians. And so we have our world famous politician. Without policy and politicians, some point we cannot do nothings. So we need them as well. So we are creating our platform. We are yes, definitely modern science, engineering, and technology we are bringing to the front line, but we need all of your experience, all of your support, and all of your guideline. Perhaps this is one of the major initiative we can take from Asia Pacific. Already Malaysian government, you can check in 25 October, Malaysian climate change divisions, their prime minister office, and they start to believe that World Talent Economy Forum, their open dialogue can be helpful for public-private partnerships. So if Malaysian politicians, they believe, why don't India? Why don't Bangladesh? Why don't Pakistan? I believe all of the politicians, they have to understand how knowledge is important, and they definitely has to support the knowledgeable person. And I believe that is the way that we can support the talent, we can support the talent economy. And I believe meritocracy is important. This is the hard time what actually Madam Durgadar discussed about the talent people. Talent is not from an institution, talents from everywhere. So we need to support all of our talent, because talent actually bring the new things. Who bring the technology? The talents. Who invest? The talents. Who is a successful entrepreneur? It's talent. I know many entrepreneurs, they are not they cannot finish their academic things, even in Bangladesh, even in Silicon Valley, even in Malaysia. So definitely we have to bring all of the talents with proper knowledge, and by this way we can solve many problem. So thank you, Madam Durgadas, for your excellent analysis. I want to welcome you in our academy, and I am sure that you can concur. And Professor Mamun, I know you are very, very helpful for industry and for innovative initiative. We are also want to invite you in our board. And Mr. Radha, how you give us the analysis, this is very important. I want to give you the chance that we have around 385 episode. If you analyze all of the things, we will publish it globally, we will promote it globally, and we will submit it to the governments, the high officials, and the corporations, and everywhere. Your policy and your consulting is very, very important, and that is the unique portfolio of talent economy. So thank you, Madam Durgadas.
Tomorrow
Yes.
I am coming out with that podcast on accounting for climate change. This will be the white paper for accounting for climate change. I want this to be placed in the COP26. It covers what we had already discussed with Marshall and Professor James and others who participated 2 weeks back. So it's a very important one. And I would like other participants to have a look at it. I'll send it over. Tomorrow I should finish it, because I'm leaving tomorrow afternoon. I want to finish this tonight and finish that. And please have a look at it. And my podcasts are distributed through Apple Connect and all that. And the first one had about 1,600. Second one had about 12,000 downloads. Third one had about 45,000 actually. The fourth one, which is going on at the moment, accounting for dreams, is about 34,000 or something. I want to hit the 50,000 download for CO2 emission. And I have covered all the things that we had discussed. I'm covering what you had, particularly Sharif has made a remarkable initiative, and covering Tatsuna is also that, Sharon and Tatsuna. All that I have covered and publish it tomorrow. Please have a look at it. And the aim is to COP26.
Yes. Our audience also want to know that when that how they can listen the podcast, so you can share. And second thing, who will be the speakers? You and other. Who will be the other speaker?
No, podcast I am alone. I am giving only my own summary of what you had all spoken. I am pulling out from Professor James Elrich of Stanford and Sheridan Tatsuna of Los Angeles, and Marshall is a very effective speaker. And all that I have collected, I am giving my idea how to approach this CO2 emission on climate change. It's going to be very important.
Okay. Thank you. This is an excellent idea. Thank you, Madam Durgadas, Mr. Radha, and
so
Professor
much.
Mamun for your continuous support.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Thanks a
Sharif.
lot.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you, madam. Thank you.